So what we need to do in this movie is get these little icons out of this document and into our ICO.png file. So I already have two tabs other than the monoplate.psd file open. First of all, I have untitled one. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. That was that little plus sign. So I don't want to save the changes in this case, so I'll go ahead and click no. And then we have ICO.png still open. So what we want to do is essentially put those little icons to the right of this plus sign if we can fit them, and I think we can, so we should be in good shape for that. So let's come back to monoplate.psd. What you want to do is make sure that the page layer group is expanded inside the layers panel, and then you want to make sure that the blog layer group is expanded inside the layers panel, and then you want to expand the div article layer group. And in there is the p.post data layer group, and finally, you'll see those images that we want to use. So let's go ahead and select the clock layer and then select all, Control A or Command A on the Mac, and copy it, Control C or Command C on the Mac. Let's come over to the File menu and choose New to create a new document. And you can see that we need 16 by 16 pixels. I'm going to go ahead and set the resolution to 72 pixels per inch. Go ahead and click OK, and then paste. So there you go. That should be fairly straightforward. So I'm actually going to cut this out now. I'm going to select all and cut. You don't necessarily need to paste it into this location, but we just want to know what the dimensions needed to be. And if you remember from the last movie, we only need 11 pixels in height here. So we need to add 5 more pixels of height to this document. Again, you can do that by going to the image menu, and from there you can choose canvas size. Let's go ahead and increase the height to 51 pixels, and you want to add that from this top middle anchor. So go ahead and click OK. Once you click OK, you can paste that content, Control V or Command V, and then just move it into place. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a problem here, and that is all of these icons will not fit inside of this document. So we're going to have to increase the height of it. So you'll also notice that we have a white box around this circle. That should be okay. We may run into a problem if they're not touching exactly, but this little bit of space should be okay. If not, we'll have to remove it. We could remove it pretty easily by just selecting the magic wand tool, making a quick selection and removing those pixels, but I think we'll be okay. Again, we may have to revisit that once we get into the HTML. So what we want to do now is come back to monoplate, and we want to select the tags layer, and with that layer selected, go ahead and copy again, Control C or Command C on the Macintosh. And then we want to paste this inside of ICO. Now, I can already tell you it's not going to fit, so let's go ahead and increase the overall width of this sprite sheet by about 32 pixels or so. So if we come up to the image menu, from there we can choose canvas size, and what we want to do is add 32 pixels to the width, bringing it up to 64, and we want to select this middle left anchor. Go ahead and click OK. The new space has been added. Go ahead and paste it. Once you paste it, you can move it into place. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to move it down 1 pixel so we have essentially the same baseline here. All right, the next thing that we want to do is get the comments balloon. So let's come back to monoplate.psd, scroll down in the layers panel and highlight responses. Go ahead and copy that. Remember, we still have that selection. If not, you can always reselect it by using the keyboard shortcut Control A or Command A on the Mac. But once you have that selection, go ahead and copy it to the clipboard, come back to ICO.png and paste it, and then move it into place. So I think that looks like a completed file in terms of this sprite sheet. So let's go ahead and save it. If you go to the File menu, choose Save As. We're going to save this again inside of the Images folder. If you want to double check the directory structure, it's Images inside of Includes, inside of Blank, which is inside of PSD to HTML. And of course, we're going to call this ICO.png. You want to make sure that it's the PNG format. Once you click Save, you certainly can replace it, so go ahead and click OK, and click OK again. Now what we need to do is come back to our editors, and we need to write the necessary code in terms of the CSS to get these icons to appear. So let's come back to style.css, and in this case, we're going to scroll all the way down towards the bottom. where we're dealing with the albums section. We also have a span.ico more. If we come back to index.html, you'll notice that we have icons inside of the P element, but we have a class of post data applied to it. What we're ultimately going to do is create a couple different links. So maybe we should do that first. I'm going to go ahead and remove this text icons, and inside of this paragraph element, what we want to do is type in A and href, and we're going to use a £sign as the placeholder. Same thing for title. We've been doing that all class. And after that, we're going to go ahead and close that off. So what we want to appear in here is the text that we see here inside of the monoplate.psd file. We have the date, then we have thoughts in the forest, and then we have 3 responses. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the date inside of Dreamweaver. I think it was February 1st, so I'll just go ahead and type that in, February 1st, 2012. Before we copy and paste this, because we have 3 of them, we want to add the span element. The span element is going to give us the ability to apply the class ICO, but of course we're going to have to move the background of ICO, so we need to create a more specific class, which we're going to call ICO date. And of course with that, we don't need anything in this span tag, so we can close it right away. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off. It didn't autocomplete, which leads me to believe there's some issues here with the syntax, and there is. I have too many quotes. So I want ICO space ICO hyphen date. And then you can close the span tag, and then you can have the text that you want to appear. So that's the structure. We want to go ahead and copy this and paste it twice. Of course, with each different element, we want to change the class. So if we're not dealing with the date here and we're dealing with tags, we'll go ahead and type in ICO hyphen tags. And then finally, the last section was comments. So we'll go ahead and type in comments. Not last section, but I should say the last element here. So we have the date, tags, and then comments. So let's go ahead and populate those anchor elements with updated text. We want thoughts in the forest and 3 responses. So I'll go ahead and type this in. Thoughts on the forest, and then responses. Okay. So we're in good shape here in terms of the HTML. Go ahead and save the HTML. Come back to the style.css document. And inside of the style.css document, we want to create those 3 specific classes that we referenced inside of the HTML. So it's going to be span.ico-date. That, of course, is the first rule that we need to create. And what we want to do is we want to change the background position, and we also want to change the height and the width. So the background position in this case is going to be negative 11 pixels because we want to move over from the left, and negative 35 pixels, which will move it down from the top. Again, if we just come back into Photoshop, the top left-hand corner is 0, 0. So by moving over negative 11 pixels, it brings us here. And by moving down negative 35 pixels, it brings us here, bringing the clock into focus. So hopefully those values make sense to you. Then we just want to establish the height and the width. So I'm going to go ahead and type in height. And the height of this, if you remember, was 16 pixels. It's the same for all the icons. And then we're going to do the same thing for the width. That too will be 16 pixels. So we just want to copy this rule, and then we want to paste it 3 times and just update the information. So this won't be ICO date, but rather ICO tags. And what we want to do here is change the position. We want to move this over negative 27 pixels and negative 35 still. Same width and height. Then we want to update this rule from ICO date to ICO comments. And of course, we need to change the X position here to negative 43. So I think we're in good shape here. If we go ahead and save this, what we want to do is take a look at this inside of a web browser. Now, it's not going to be perfect yet. We'll still have to make some adjustments. But if we preview this in Chrome or Safari, if we scroll down, we should see a list of the icons, and that's the case. The icons look nice. The text looks good. It's a hyperlink. Obviously, what we need to do is change the appearance of this text, and we also need to align these elements so they float horizontally, and that's what we're going to take a look at in the next movie.